What's going on, Bellflower? Gwen the Recovering Witch here, also known as Jen. Welcome back to Mindful Recovery Monday, all my recovering warriors. If you are enjoying this segment, I really appreciate the support. Here is another Monday where we are reviewing the Pagan and Recovery book by Dierdre and Hebert, and I am actually covering step 5 today. Not that it's a surprise for anybody. I don't even know why I said it like that. I'm still kind of like in the feels of step 4. And I was pretty open with you guys, and I'm still kind of like processing some things, again, because as I said, with me and my sponsor, we are reviewing step 4. So I'd like to kind of like stay with that, and seeing how what I am finding out is progressing, and how I come out to the other side of that. So, but again, I did want to kind of keep that order of getting through the steps with you guys, and I'd really like to work on some other things, but again, before I can move on, I got to finish this. So we are moving on to step 5. So step 5 is in the book is admitted to deity, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, where in the regular big book it says admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So again, it's just reiterating the fact that we are changing out the word God to deity. Miss Hebert here, she does say in most 12-step programs, the pagan once again encounters the word God, and with it, in many groups, a Christian attitude. But before we despair, take a look at what we're doing and what this step is actually implying. In step 4, we've made an inventory. In step 5, we are called to make it, in some limited sense, a bit public. She does go on to saying that, and I really admire stories that are shared. Again, there are the traditions of where we don't come out like in a public way about what addictions we would suffer through, and then kind of like putting it in the 12-step basis. But again, I'm going by a pseudonym. I'm trying to ensure that I never pick up another drink or drug ever again. And so when I do this, it's really making me accountable. At the end of the day, to thine own self, I have to be true. There could be things that are different from off the camera, but it's not going to sit right with me, and I know that you guys would tell. She talks about this as her personal story and saying, I was not seeking absolution but accountability and a real reason to change my ways and to do better. When it kind of goes into the Christianity aspect, again, I can relate for myself being Catholic, being raised Catholic. We have priests or a head member of the church that we would go to and disclose and basically do like a confession. Pagans, for us, we don't really have a person that we can go to for this, which again, why it's so important to have a sponsor we jive with. Again, but they still call us out on the stuff that needs to be called out. Don't get me wrong. The reason for this being, when we find somebody that we are comfortable disclosing this information with, we see the humbleness in the other person. It could be from when we first walked into the rooms of a meeting, we've heard somebody share. That's what resonated with me with my first sponsor. She was somebody I resonated with. She explained her stories. They were very real and valid, and she didn't have to share those things. And I felt like a calling to speak with her because that's what I needed at the time with my first sponsor. And she's a very humble person. And because of this program, that is how she is staying right-sized. When we go off and we disclose who we are mad at or the things that we have done, we are going to feel pretty horrible. But again, reminder, I said don't stay in morbid reflection. It does say it in our literature and various 12-step literature. But the point of this is, it's like, depending on what the situation is or was or what we experienced or what we did, as horrible as it sounds, chances are there is somebody else that we are bumping shoulders with in a meeting that has been through the same thing, and it's not really as horrible as it sounds. And a lot of the time our mind does make it more than what it really is. It is kind of nice to have a person who sits there not with this like I'm better than you kind of thing. Um, you come to common ground and looking at it as a spiritual sense, two people are coming together to help each other. I kind of look at this as like SRT if you have done that before, where it's kind of like a person is kind of going through your past lives. The person that I have done this with does a fantastic job, and she explained it to me that it's almost like you are in the room with a person. They are going to get relayed messages whenever they're kind of doing the thing with the pendulum and reading the grid. Um, there is no judgment. There is, it is both higher selves of the people and whatever guidance from angels, ancestors, whoever it is, they are coming in. And it's like we are removing egos out of the way from each other. Like, I am not putting any walls up. I am not going to say anything. This person's not going to say anything and pass judgment. Really, more so, it's for each other's benefit, if that makes sense in that explanation. It's to share what is on our minds and the things that we have been through or the things that we have done that we lived with for a long time, and coming clean about it. And remember, I did say the three most indispensable things about a 12-step program is you have to be honest, open-minded, and willing. So when we've gone through steps 1 to now, steps 1 through 5, we are really being honest and we're putting it into action, because we're really serious about this thing. And in the big book, it does talk about this, that it is a matter of life or death for us. So we're on a mission, basically, that we are taking this seriously. We're trying to like change things in our lives around. And so um, we want to do what is suggested and seeing how this works for us to ensure that we don't go back to the same behavior again. So I will get back into that in a minute. But basically, the admitting our defects of character to God. Again, replace that with deity. And a lot of people are wondering, like, well, why do I need to disclose this to deity when they already know like what I've done and what's going through my mind and they're always watching me? And Hebert says it in here. It says the truth is that deity doesn't need us to admit anything. There is nothing that we could say that they need to hear. We can't tell them anything about ourselves that will surprise them. Our admission of our faults to deity is not for sake of deity, but for our own benefit. It's important for us to hear ourselves speak out loud. Our admissions of whatever faults we might have, whatever part of our lives are in need of transformation to our higher power. And this admission is preparatory for the steps that follow. When we are doing something as intimate where we are like praying or meditating with deity or sending petitions out or spells out, it's kind of the same thing. We're disclosing a lot, not because of the fact like it's because it's not that they don't know, but it's really like kind of coming in a humbling kind of moment and being like, I just need to say this out loud to you. I know you are listening. And instead of just keeping it just in here, it's really more so of building that connection with them, and knowing that they do hear it, and coming to realize later on down when we are doing this deal, we see them working in a certain way. And that's how I've come to see that anyhow. Then it goes down to admitting to ourselves. So it says this step speaks more of ownership than simple admission. It implies taking responsibility for who we are, while at the same time not placing upon ourselves an undue and paralyzing shame for the things we've done. Basically, it just is what it is. When we do things as far as magical practitioner goes, it is really just kind of being like, hey, this is what I've done. I am admitting it. And really, it's really more so of just saying it out loud to ourselves, just kind of processing it in the brain. It's almost like we are helping our brain to process again, when we are doing these things. We're seeing our part, the other person's part, or whatever part it is, but really reiterating the fact of it is what it is, taking claim and responsibility for what we have done, and not passing the judgment depending on what it is, or the blame onto somebody else. She does end with, we could, if we wished, feel worthless and disgusted with ourselves, or instead we can discover within ourselves a sense of dignity, self-respect, and courage. Dignity could be defined as proper application of pride. It permits us to acknowledge who we are and enables us to be ready to accept the consequences of what we've done. It allows us to apologize when appropriate, and it doesn't back down from what is right and necessary. Dignity is what is necessary to truly admit to ourselves exactly who and what we are. It's strange that, as we mentioned before, often the most difficult things to admit to self are the positive qualities. It's just reiterating that speaking out with the spoken words, taking responsibility for the actions, really seeing the sides of both sides of the coin, actually, and then the work that we do, especially telling somebody else, which is what I'm going to get into in just a minute, it adds the other side of the coin if we're not able to see it with somebody who hasn't been in that scenario with us personally, whatever that situation was. So, admitting to another human being. I am I have admitted to my sponsors when I have done 4-step, okay? And I'll tell you what happened in the first go around, and what has happened since then. Um, why I laughed was because this is kind of like the point of where this will get people walking, okay? I have seen it happen before in the rooms, y'all. Um, yeah. I mean, good when there are times where people will start working the program. I'm gonna make this very loose as possible. People start working the program, they build a relationship with the higher power or deity, God, whoever, and good things start to happen. Okay. Well, the good things start to happen, and then they're just like, you know what? I am not gonna admit nothing to nobody. Like, ain't nobody needs to know what I did. All right. And I'm not gonna do it. So peace out. Okay. So I have witnessed this in a meeting before, but like I was just like, wow. Okay. Again, like it was just kind of the things that it was just like I'm watching this, you know. Again, hopefully this person is still like sober and things are working out, you know, and everything, but like it was the fact of just being like, I am not going to do this deal. Okay. And I'm like, well, I didn't really want to admit to another human being either, but like I just want to ensure that I just don't go back to the same behavior. And I want to be honest, you know. So that story keeps playing in my mind, just that whole scene. And I'm just like, wow. The cool thing about being a pagan is that we don't believe in the condemnation here. We don't. Just kind of like when we're going to a priest and confessing our sins, and they say however Hail Marys there are, especially in Catholic religion. But like, yeah, we're not seeking for absolution. But we are seeking the accountability. So when we are telling another person about what has happened to us, why we are upset, angry, whatever reason that may be, or disclosing like deep, dark secrets about us, like we don't have to live with them. It's just like, I told another person. You know, it's kind of like if you're, I kind of look at it as like a person who gossips and being like, I have a secret, and I want to tell somebody. Um, I mean, granted, we might not want to like tell people because it is our stuff, but like it does feel better when you like openly share and just being like, I am actually being honest. I am being honest and I want to keep doing it. I really want to keep doing it. So it's that sense of accountability of telling another person. So when we do that and we're honest in how good it feels, we're just like, wow, I don't ever want to tell a single lie again. But sometimes there are times where it's just like, you want to tell a little white lie because it feels good. But then you come clean about it and be like, look, I'm sorry, you know. But it's like, for my own personal experience, it's kind of like the more lies that I told, it was kind of like I had to backtrack on the lie of the lie to make sure that my story stayed straight. And it gets just too, it just gets too much. It just gets too much. And it's like, you know what? I might as well just tell the truth, and I don't have to come up with any sort of backstory or anything like that and then try to keep track of who I told what to. And yeah, you know the drill. You know the drill. Hebert makes a point, and I'm glad she wrote this in there, is honesty is a fundamental component of magic. When we are wanting something, we are earnestly going, finding the power within, whether we call on a higher power, deity, God, goddess, whoever, or not, even sending the message out into the universe, we are humbly asking for a request to make our lives better or something to happen or whatever. That is us being honest when we are casting something in a spell or a ritual, okay? We need to make sure when we are stating the petition, we know exactly what it is that we want and to get it right. That honesty, I really think, is like the very indispensable piece with this to work. And so, yeah, so there's not much to it. So, with whom shall we share? And at this point, we would think that you would share with the sponsor. Hebert does say it's important to come face to face with another human being, but the decision of whom that will be must be made with great wisdom. Somebody you trust. I like to put, again, in the program, because again, if you think about it, there are people going in and they've gone through the same experience. They can relate somehow. They're finding the similarities versus the differences. They know that this is something that you are trying to work on for the betterment of yourself. And they are not going to sit there and pass judgment, right? So, again, for me, I found somebody that I resonated with. I had this feeling like this is the person I need at the time. That happened with my first sponsor. When I felt like I was changing, I found somebody else that I resonated with because my spirituality was very important at that time. Because I was having a lot of questions about certain things. And so I went to that person because she had something I wanted that I wanted, which was really her having this close bond with her higher power. Um which again, it doesn't say that my first sponsor didn't have that. It was just the way that it I viewed it from my perspective. So now I am on my third sponsor out of the last a little over the 3.5 years. And my viewpoint on my spirituality, things that have been happening in my life, I needed somebody that was not of really into more of that Christianity type base, but really open to the idea of what is applying into my life right now and being a path of the pagan and being a witch. And coming to terms and understanding and really working with that and respecting that. I did want to read this part in page 54. It says, often we find that many of the things we thought were terrible, some of the things that made us most uncomfortable, are in no way unique and particular to us. It's been said that if there is a name for it, somebody else has done it. If there is a law against it, lots of people have done it. And I could not find that like more true. And I'm glad she disclosed that in here because again, it's like if you are in a group of people, chances are you are going to find somebody that you are going to be able to share that with, that is a humble person who is working the steps. It does make it more comfortable versus going and telling a best friend or something, you know, or somebody you really trust where it's like, man, they pretty much know almost everything about me. You'd be surprised. They might be able to sit there with you and just be like, "Hey, I understand this is important to you. Let's do this." Um I think at times when it comes back to as far as like the structure of churches, I think Hebert said it's really more so like in the Catholic and Protestant faith. Um, Again, depending how close we are into the church, which I was not, if we go to the priest and do confession when we feel necessary, then it's kind of like they don't really know us personally. Um, and we know that they really can't go off and tell somebody else, um, because that is their job. Um, but again, it's kind of like finding that wisdom of knowing that chances are, if this has happened, it's making your mind switch off and being like, I know that I am not the only person. Because that is what I felt for me was so unique, is that nobody else has done this or they haven't experienced this. And that's what my mind made me to believe, that I was alone, that I was very much alone and that nobody was like me. But come to find out, even before this journey in sobriety, before being a witch, before being a pagan, everybody's been through this stuff. So it really doesn't mean that I am anybody special. I am special, if you know what I'm like in this context. Like, we're all special people. But again, like, I am no different from the next person. So just to wrap up the chapter, this for step 5, it's about us taking accountability for our actions and how we are putting into actions to move forward and change and take on that accountability and showing people, hey, we're in this for the deal. Hebert starts off with, many of us who have experienced addiction have developed a habit in which we try to maintain some outer sense of control. We have lost integrity because what we do and what we say are very different things indeed. To be truly integrated beings, our actions must be in harmony with our words. With how Hebert puts in step 5, um, she is trying to get us like out of the shame, which is what I've been trying to accomplish with these videos that are posted out. It's kind of like being like, hey guys, whoever is suffering from an addiction, I'm one of you. Maybe you're too scared to go, or whatever the reason may be. Again, it is to realize, to get out of your brain, get out of self for a minute and being like, there are other people like me, taking accountability for the actions and the willingness and the action to change. Um, she does go on to say that one of the realities of the 12-step programs is that few people ever fully commit to paper their 4th step. Because again, we might look at the things that have happened to us or what we've done to other people as shameful. And again, she did that very well in explaining that, again, that most likely some of us have gone through the same things, and if there's a law for it, most likely it's been done. Even if you thought about it, most likely somebody else has thought about it too. Yeah, so it's, again, it's like just being all one and the same. She also goes on to say, the irony is that admission during step 4 and 5 doesn't constitute a lie or a failure to anyone but ourselves. These steps are the first moments in our lives in our endeavor to make honesty and accountability guiding principles rather than merely lofty but unattainable goals in our lives. We gloss over our past, we skimp on our path to sobriety at our own peril. So when I was doing my step 5 with my first sponsor, I had like my notebooks here, um, and I was talking to her, and as I'm going through each person, things that had happened, why I was resentful, angry, upset. She wanted me to realize, just to know that I was not alone. She was trying to help me to understand that my my relationship with my higher power, whoever that was, is so important. Not to feel abandoned, not to feel like I was unworthy, unwanted. shameful. It was really bamboozling my brain and being like, whatever you learned before, whatever lie that you told yourself or what you heard from other people, that's not true. It's not true. Um, and so knowing that I can change things around, and really moving forward and trying to do better. So as I'm reading through on my step 5 with her, um, I got to like almost the very end with as far as like, I guess like employment places where I worked and things like that. And she's like, anybody else? I did so much crying. I mean, I had mascara, everything running down my face, I guess, but like I um I felt so freed afterward. Again, it's the shadow work. You're processing the emotions, you're talking about it, and another person is holding space. Um and when I got to the end of it, I looked at it and I was like, this really doesn't matter anymore. Like, I don't know why I want to hold on to all this. Um, and I'm really enjoying this freeing feeling of not carrying that weight with me as long as I had. Um, and knowing what my part was and what part wasn't mine, um, based on her perspective on things, too. So, as long as I was telling her the truth and being honest, her taking what it is for face value of what happened, looking at the duality of both sides, and her just reiterating the fact that I'm just trying to keep my side of the street clean, moving on and moving forward. That was like the best thing. And it was just like, the rest of this like little petty stuff, it doesn't matter anymore. And I've learned to navigate later and just be like, this is really helping me to discover who I am, what I want and what I don't want. Um, for many things, for one being employment, and being an HR person and seeing the things that happen. And it's like, it's not like I don't play well with other people. At the time, I did not play well with other people. I'm just being honest. But today, if you asked me, I'm taking the things that they are for face value. And it's like I'm asking myself, well, hey, I respect myself enough and I'm being honest here. Do I feel comfortable here? No, I don't. Is this going to be for me? Mm-mm. Like, again, that was kind of like one of the things that I've wondered with. It was like, is it me? Is it other people? Am I not being accepting enough? It's like, no. Do I feel uncomfortable? I felt that, and I was like, look, if you feel uncomfortable, say something, do what's for your best benefit. Because chances are, if you know that if we're going to keep stuffing it and it's going to be like very detrimental to your recovery and the behaviors that are coming up or things that are coming up, then chances are this is something you need to look at and seeing how it's the action to move forward. Hebert, again, this is just me kind of like doing a recap or overview of this step. But she goes into very much detail of being like, have a picture or a statue of deity. I have the Morrigan here, which I am planning on doing this. But many a time when, again, there's something that I need clarification on, something that has really been bothering me, something that I need answers on what it is that I should do. This is basically just like a rehearsal run. You have everything written down. You're coming to deity and saying, hey, I am doing this, and explaining my purpose as to why I'm coming to you, um, and disclosing this information to you. And because I need to say this out loud, it helps build on that relationship. Um, so then later on, after you speak with deity, you are prepared to go to your sponsor or the delegated person that is going to help you complete this step. So she does say in here at the time that maybe in the time that you are speaking with deity, having like a crystal or some sort of object that they can bless, that you can charm as far as helping you with courage. Really just to kind of help you get through as far as speaking out your 4-step inventory. That's all I can say. I can't find the words today all this afternoon. Like, it's just been woof. But yeah, it's just, you are asking deity for whatever object that you choose before you do this, that they bless it so that all goes well with this person. And chances are that it will. It will. And they know everything at this point, so you're just disclosing the same information you did with deity. When you are enunciating it to deity, you are acknowledging to yourself, and then you're about to acknowledge to another human being, just to ensure that it goes well. There's not really much to this step. I will add 5, 6, and 7 are pretty much the shortest steps, even out of the big book. And quite honestly, it does kind of go into further clarifications in the other literature, like the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, because there's not really much to them. And when I wrap up the other steps, you'll see why. But these are very important. I mean, it's just very cut and dry, but sometimes it is the hardest thing for people to do. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And let me know your thoughts. If you are a person that is a pagan in recovery, again, granted, we do have a sponsor. Maybe you are the type of person who is kind of like working the steps or some other way. How you feel about this, like disclosing this to another person, having the insecurities, but just engage in the conversation about this. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm going to leave you here for now. I'll see you next week for Mindful Recovery Monday for step 6. Until then, be well. All right.